Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another tutorial. In today's video I'll be showing you guys how to draft this stylish asymmetric overlap jacket. If it sounds good to you and it's something you love to learn, then please stay tuned. And to my returning subscribers, thank you so very much for your support and for coming back. And if you're new here, please don't forget to click the subscribe button. Thank you very much. With that being said, let's get right into this video. So what I have right here is the front pattern, as you can see, and then the half length I'm working with is 17 inches, and then I extended the length of the jacket by 3 inches, so the total becomes 20 inches. You can do whatever length you want, actually it's not a fixed number. And then for the bust line, I came down by 11 inches as indicated, and I ruled a line across the paper, and then I came down 9 inches for the chest line, and I also ruled a line across the paper like so. So the shoulder measurement I'm working with is 16 inches divided by 2 gives me 8. So I'm going to be placing 8 on the chest line and also on the top line right there. After doing that, I'm going to be connecting the two parts together using a straight ruler as indicated like so. Now on that line, I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope right there, and then I took note of what I have from that point to the chest line. I took note of the midpoint right there. And then for the width of the neck, I'm going to be working with 3.5 inches. So I'm going to mark that. And after doing that, I'm going to be coming down 8.5 inches for the depth of the neck. Now, you can do whatever you want for your design of the neck. You can make it lower or higher. Totally depends on you. So for now, I'm not going to be connecting the neck. We'll be doing that much later. So back to the shoulder, I'm going to be connecting the shoulder slope to the end of the neck width like so on a slanted line. Now to draw out the shape of our armhole, I'm going to be going back to the shoulder slant right there. I'll measure what I have at the shoulder and decide if I want to leave the shoulder like that or if I want to take out some amount from the shoulder. It depends on you. You can take out 1 inch, you can do 1.5. It depends on how thick you want the arm of your waistcoat to be, but for me I will just take out about half an inch. I'll reduce the shoulder by about half an inch like so. Then the next thing that I'll do now is to go over to the armhole area at that midpoint and come out by 1 inch. So I'm going to be measuring 1 inch from that point right there, and after that I'm going to be going over to the chest area, and then I'll input my chest circumference of 40 divided by 4, which gives me 10. So from that mark I'm going to be going down by half an inch. You can go as low as 1 inch for that area if you want your armhole to be a little bit lower, but I'm going to be doing half an inch, so that's what I'm marking. And then after doing that, I'm going to be connecting the 3 points together to form the shape of this armhole. So the next thing that I'll be doing is to place the dot line on this pattern. So I'll be using the bust span measurement for that, and the bust span measurement I'm using for this pattern is 9 inches divided by 2 gives me 4.5. So I'll be placing that on the bust line, on the waistline, and also on the extended length of this waistcoat. I'll be placing the 4.5 inches on that line right there. Now after doing that, I'm going to be connecting the 3 points together on a straight line. Now one thing I like to add is that on the waistline, I'm not going to be taking out any dart on the waistline because I'm still going to be adding that to the armhole and transferring the dart to the waistline. So I'm not going to be taking out half an inch on both sides like I normally do for this waistline, because I'm still going to transfer the dart from the armhole and also from the neckline. I'm going to be contouring the armhole and neckline, and therefore I'm going to be transferring all those darts back to the waistline. You're going to see as we progress in this video what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to be adding any darts on the waistline. Now I'll just go ahead and connect the 3 points together like so. Now I'll go over to the waistline and place a quarter of the waist circumference on the waistline like so, and then I'll also go over to the extended length of the waistcoat and also place a quarter of the waist circumference on it as well, and then I'll connect those 3 points together all the way to the bust area to form the side seam. And if you want the waistcoat to not be as fitted, you can go ahead and add ease to the side seam, but I'm not going to be doing that for this tutorial. Now for the extension at the lower part of the waistcoat, I'm going to be coming down 3 inches from the hem line like so. You can do lower than that if you want, and then from the 3 inches mark I'll be going out by 4 inches like so. Now that also depends on your preference or what you want. You can do longer than that, wider than that, depends on what you want. But I came out by 4 inches, as you can see. So now from that 4 inches mark right there, I'm going to be connecting straight to the side seam at the hem line, like so, just like that. And then from the other side, I'm going to be connecting it straight to the center front, like so. That way we've created the extension at the lower part of the waistcoat. The next thing that I want to do now is to create the side darts for this pattern, and the reason for the creation of the side dart is because the half length of the front and back is usually not the same, so we have to account for that difference somehow on the front pattern. Because if we don't do that, the side seam of the front and back will not align together when we are sewing. So for example, the half length for the front here is 17 inches while that of the back is 15 inches, so we have 2 inches difference, so we have to account for that at the front. So what I'm going to do is, on the bust line, I'm going to be coming down by 2 inches. I will measure down 2 inches from the bust line, like so. I'll just go ahead and connect it straight to the apex on a slanted line, just like I'm doing. Then I'll go ahead and divide the dart into 2. That's 1 inch on both sides, and then I'll connect from the middle straight to the apex, like so. Then I'll go ahead and extend that line to the new hem line. Now what I'm going to do now is I'll go over to the armhole and measure down about 5 inches, like so. Now from the 5-inch mark, I'm going to be connecting to the apex or to the bust point, like so. What we are trying to achieve here is trying to avoid gaping at the armhole, so I'm going to be taking out about 1 inch, so that's half an inch on both sides from the 5-inch mark. And then after taking out half an inch on both sides, making 1 inch, I'm going to be connecting those lines straight back into the apex, like so. And for the armhole contouring, it's not all the time you have to take out about 1 inch from the armhole. You can do lesser than that, like half an inch or maybe 0.75 of an inch. It depends on how projected the bust area is. So the bigger the cup size, the more projected and the more you have to reduce gaping. But if the bust is not as big, you might not really have much to take out to reduce gaping. I hope you understand. So the next thing that I will do now is to go ahead and trace out this pattern. I'll trace out everything on this paper to the other side, so I can have a mirror image of this on the other side, so we can start working on that. So all the necessary parts that needs to be traced, I'm going to be tracing them out. So after tracing, I'm going to be opening up the paper just like this, and then I'll be taking note of the center front line. I'm going to be drawing a line to demarcate it so we can see very well. That's the center front line, and then I'll be tracing the other side of the paper with my pencil at first. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. I'll trace out all the shapes that I've traced from the other side onto this paper. So I'll just go ahead and use my pencil to kind of like highlight the traced lines so you can see. It might not be as clear because I've not used my marker yet, but I feel like you can still see just a little bit to get an idea of what we are working with. So basically, I'm just tracing what we have on the left hand side onto the right hand side. The next thing that I will do now is to draw out the overlap that we extend from the left hand side onto the right hand side, like so. So from the hem line right there, I'm going to be coming out by 2 inches from the side seam on that hem line right there. I'll come out by 2 inches, and then I'll go up by 3 inches, just like that. Then I'll just cross check from the side seam if it's 2 inches that I'm having right there. The next thing I'll do now is to take note of the 8.5 inches of neck depth that we measured earlier before. After taking note of that, I'm going to be connecting from the high shoulder point right there to pass through that neckline to the other side that I measured. Now, I discovered after drawing the overlap line that the depth of the neck is kind of high for me, too high, and I wanted it to be a little bit deeper. So what I did was I increased the width of the neck by half an inch. You know, before it was 3.5 inches that we did, so I made it 4 inches for the width of the neck. And then for the depth of the neck, I'm going to be going with the chest line of 9 inches. The depth before was 8.5 before, so now I came down half an inch to make it 9 inches. So I'm just working with the chest line measurement right now as the depth of this neck, and then I'm going to redraw the overlap line. So I'll go over to the neck depth and come out by 1 inch like so, and then from that 1 inch I'm going to slant this ruler and then connect to the eye shoulder points, the neck width of 4 inches, and then from that point I will connect straight down to the overlap at the other side like so. Now I'm just going to use the marker to highlight this slanted line for better visibility. Now I'll go ahead and fold this paper into 2. The next thing that I'll do now is to measure what I have at the shoulder right there and take the midpoint. From the midpoint, I'll come down by 1/4 of an inch. Now from the 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to be connecting straight back into the shoulder tip right there to the eye shoulder point and also to the shoulder slope, basically just redrawing this shoulder line, and then I will highlight with the marker for better visibility. Now I'll just go ahead and use my tracing wheel to trace out the neck depth and also the shoulder line like so. Now to avoid gaping at the neckline, I'm going to be measuring what I have there and then I'll divide it by 2. From that point, I will connect straight down to the apex like so. So I'm doing all this because I want to create like a little dart on the neckline. Now to complete the contouring, I'm just going to be coming out by 1/4 of an inch on the neckline for the dart that we want to take at the neckline. So from that point, I'll just connect back again into the apex. So I'll just go ahead now and trace out these darts on the neckline to the other side of the paper. When you spread the paper, you discover that everything you've traced is appearing on the other side. Now the next thing that I will do now is to connect back into the hemline on the other side, the extended hemline, to complete this overlap design. So I'll just take my ruler now and connect from that point straight down to the other side of the extension like so, just like that. I'll just connect from the side seam now straight to the edge of the extended hemline like so. So I'm going to try to finish up the side seam like so, but before I do that, I'm going to go over to the dart at the chest line area like so and measure what I have there so I can replace it back to the bust area. We have to do that if we don't want a shortage of fabric, so we have to replace all the darts that are passing through that line. I'll replace it, then after replacing, I'll just connect the side seam like so. So the next thing that I'll do now is to go ahead and trace out this extension so it can appear at the other side of the paper, so we can have it at both sides. So I'll fold this paper back now and then trace out this extension like so with the tracing wheel. Then I'll go ahead and also trace out the side seam like so to appear on the other side. So I'll just go ahead now and use marker to draw out this traced line so we can have sort of like mirror images of both sides. And I'm also using a different color of marker so we can be able to differentiate from the left hand side to the right hand side, and also for better visibility. So just watch what I'm doing. In a nutshell, I'm just basically replicating what we have on the left hand side onto the right hand side. Now I'll just go ahead now and trace out the shape of the armhole on both sides. Now on the wearer's right hand side is where the buttonholes are going to be placed. You'll be placing that diagonally, as many as you want, depends on what you want. And then on the under or the left hand side is where the buttons are going to be placed. Under this, you place your buttons, which will also follow the buttonholes, so they'll be placed diagonally as well. The next thing that I'll do now is to trace out this left hand side pattern onto a fresh paper, which I already went ahead to do off camera, so it's on another paper like this. Don't mind this opening, I'm going to be explaining that much later. So back to the other side of the pattern, so I'm going to be cutting out the one on the right hand side, so just watch what I'm doing. Then I'll open up the dart line towards the bust point and then close the side dart. Now I want you guys to take note of something. As I'm closing this side dart, you can see that the waist area is getting wider and is opened. This is because I'm transferring this dart at the side now to the waistline. This is the reason why I didn't add any dart to the waistline when we were drafting earlier. Then I'll move over to the armhole and trace out the 1 inch of that we added earlier. And then after tracing that out, I'm going to be cutting through this dart towards the bust point. So I'll be closing this dart now so I can redraw the armhole. By doing that, I'm making the waistline even wider. You can see that the dart has been transferred to the waistline now. So I'll just go ahead now and redraw the shape of this armhole. So you can see the act of transferring dart from one location to another on a pattern. That's the reason why I didn't add extra volume to the waist darts at first, because I know the dart would get transferred to the waist later. But all this doesn't really matter though, because I'm going to be cutting out the extra volume at all the dart lines when we draw out the princess seam line later. So I'll just cut out the side seam and the armhole right now. So I'll be cutting out the shoulder, as you can see, and then I'll go over to the neckline and then mark the 1/4 inch dart that we took at the neckline. Then I'll be cutting through the dart at the neckline towards the bust point, just like we did for the armhole. Then I'll go ahead and close the neckline so I can redraw the new shape of the neckline. And as you can see, the transfer dart has gone to the waist and further increasing the volume at the waist area. Guys, if you've been enjoying my video so far, please give me a giant thumbs up. And if you are new here, you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and click on the subscribe button. Thank you. Now back to the tutorial. I'm going to be cutting along the neckline area like so. Then I'll move over to this pattern and repeat everything that I did on the previous pattern. On this pattern, I'm going to be closing the side dart. I will open up the dart line. I will open up the dart at the armhole and neckline and then close it and transfer the darts to the waistline. Just pretty much everything I did on the other pattern, I'll be repeating on this pattern as well. So just watch what I'm doing. So I'm just going to be cutting through the armhole and then I'll be closing the armhole to redraw the shape of the armhole just like I did for the other pattern. After doing that, I'll move over to the neckline and also cut through the darts at the neckline, close back the neckline and then redraw the shape of the neckline just like we did for the other pattern. Guys, it's the same thing. I'm just repeating what I did for the other pattern. Now I'll just go ahead now and cut out this whole pattern. So I'm just going to go ahead now and highlight the center front line on this pattern. It's quite important to note that. Now I'll just go ahead and label the two patterns. Now the next thing that I'll be doing is to mark down 5 inches from the shoulder tip like so, and then from that point I'm going to be placing my pattern master that way to draw out the princess seam into the bust point area like so. Just watch what I'm doing. I will draw out that shape like that for the princess seam and then I'll be cutting through so I can separate the pattern into two parts. Then I'll be smoothing out all the sharp edges at the sides. So I'll just go ahead and repeat the same process that I did for the other pattern on this as well. So what I have here are the patterns placed on top of each other, and I already went ahead to use masking tape to temporarily close the darts at the sides so we can properly see how it's going to look when placed on top of each other. So this is how it's going to be placed, and then you're going to follow the center front line to place this properly, and then you see where the buttons and buttonholes are supposed to be. Then I'm going to cross check the waist measurement to see that I have the correct waist measurement, which I do. Now the other side of the vest is going to be having the snap button or the press button to hold them together, while the upper part is going to be having the buttonholes and the buttons. So now let's go ahead and draft the back pattern. So I came down 11 inches for the bust point and 9 inches for the chest line. Then I came down 15 inches for the half length of the back, and then I came down 3 inches more for the extended length of the vest, and then I'll be using marker to highlight this, which means that the total length of the back is 18 inches. Then for the shoulder measurement, I'll be coming out 8 inches of the shoulder line, and I'll go to the chest line and also measure 8 inches. Then I'll be connecting the 2 points together on a straight ruler like so. And then from that line, I'll be coming down 1 inch for the shoulder slope. And then for the neck width, I'll be doing 4 inches for the neck width. Neck depth to be 2 inches. Then I'll be using my pattern master to connect the lines for the neck together like so. And then after doing that, I'm going to be connecting the shoulder slope like so. Then I'll go over to the chest line and place my chest circumference of 10 inches. Then I'll go down by half an inch. Then I'll go over to the midpoint there and come out by half an inch. I came out 1 inch for the front, but here is half an inch. So after doing that, I'll go over to the shoulder, measure what I have, and come out by half an inch from that point. And then I'll be connecting these points together to form the shape of the armhole like so. Then I'll just go ahead and further highlight this armhole with the use of the marker. The next thing that I will do now is to place my bust band measurement of 4.5 inches on the bust line, on the waistline, and also on the extended length of this vest. And then I'll connect the 3 points together on a straight line like so. Now for the dart intake, I'm going to be going over to the waistline and coming out half an inch on both sides. Then I'll go over to the extended length of the vest as well and come out by half an inch on both sides. Then I'll be connecting all these points together straight to the bust point to form the dart, and then I'll be using marker to further highlight it. Now the next thing that I will do now is to go over to the waistline and place my waist circumference divided by 4 while adding the 1 inch of that. And then I'll go over to the extended length and repeat the same, my waist circumference divided by 4 plus the 1 inch of that. And then I'll be connecting those points together towards the bust area to form the side seam. Now the next thing I'll do is I'll go over to the shoulder tip and measure down 5 inches like that, and then I'll be placing the pattern master that way so I can create the princess seam line into the bust line, as you can see, just like that. And then after doing that, I'm going to be going over to the center back at the waistline and coming out by 1/4 of an inch. And then from that point, I'm going to be creating sort of like a slanted line towards the neckline. I'll just draw the slanted line from that 1/4 of an inch straight up into the neckline, and then I'll be repeating the same thing towards the M line as well at the bottom part. Now I just want to add that for the armhole at the back, I'm not going to be contouring or adding any darts for it. I'm just going to leave it that way. And then with that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and label this pattern, and then I'll just cut it out. Now midway through cutting was when I realized I had not contoured the shoulder like I did for the front pattern. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'll go over to the shoulder now and measure what I have left at the shoulder, then take the midpoint. Then from the midpoint, I'm going to be coming down by 1/4 of an inch. Then from the 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to be squaring it from there towards the eye shoulder point and also to the shoulder slant to form the new shoulder line like so. Then as always, I'll be using the marker to further highlight it. Now after doing that, I'm just going to go ahead now and cut through the dart towards the princess seam to the armhole, and then cut the rest of the pattern. Now after cutting the back pattern, this is what I have, the side back and also the center back. So for this pattern, you're going to be having 2 pieces each for the side back and also for the center back. So while transferring to fabric, you're going to be adding your sewing allowances and maybe any ease you might want to add to the back. You can add it on it while transferring to the fabric. Now just like we did for the back, you're also going to be adding your allowances round the front pattern while transferring to fabric for the center front, the 2 center fronts, and then the 2 side fronts. And you're going to be having one piece for each of these, for the left hand side and also for the right hand side for the front pattern. You can also go ahead and add ease to this pattern if you don't want it as fitted. And on that note guys, we've come to the end of today's tutorial. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and also share this video. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please go ahead and click on the subscribe button, and also don't forget to turn on your notification bell to get notified of my latest videos. So till I see you in my next video guys, bye.